Okay, so I'm Julia Coakley, Head of Operations, and on behalf of the MGAA, I'd like to welcome you to our webinar this afternoon, which is being delivered by SchemeServe. Before I introduce our presenters, I'd like to run through a few housekeeping points. Please ensure your microphone and your camera is off, and if you'd like to ask a question, please use the chat button at the bottom of your screen. This will be answered during the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. If we run out of time and don't have an opportunity to put your question to our speakers, this will be answered post-event. This presentation is accredited for CPD points if relevant to your ongoing professional development, and the video will be available on our website and the MGAA YouTube channel. And do please take time to respond to our feedback survey, which will be issued after this webinar. We do like you to complete this to enable us to deliver the best quality events to our membership. So today's webinar, Collaboration for Growth, is being delivered by Sean Neal, Commercial Director and Chief Commercial Officer, SchemeServe, Lee Cheeseborough, Managing Director, Movo Partnership, Leah Church, Head of Schemes Operations, Hiscox, and Steve Cowman, Managing Director, NBS. So Sean has over 30 years experience in the insurance industry, running both a successful insurance brokerage and an MGA. His experience is invaluable when speaking with SchemeServe customers, as he has lived and breathed Insurtech in a real-world transactional environment. Recognised as one of the Insurance Business UK's elite women of 2021, Lee Cheeseborough has established what is now the fastest growing AR network in the UK. Lee has more than 20 years experience in the insurance industry, developing her career in a number of sales and manager roles for leading insurers and brokers. Leah Church is Head of Schemes Operations for Hiscox UK Retail, leading the Hiscox operational and digital strategy for the rapidly growing business unit, which facilitates over 100 schemes and 80 delegated authorities. Steve is Managing Director of NBS Underwriting, an independent MGA offering a wide range of standard and niche commercial and personal lines products. Established by Steve in 2011, the MGA has undergone a complete digital transformation over the past 5 years, which has seen it grow incredibly fast, doubling its GWP in 12 months. So your learning objectives for today will be, by the end of the session, delegates will describe ways in which MGAs have grown during the pandemic. You'll be able to outline various collaborative and communication tools and strategies for growth, describe ways in which insurance platforms, have evolved during the pandemic, and you'll be able to summarise ways in which MGAs can harness these new collaborative tools and strategies to support their own growth. So, if we could kick off today with our first question to the panel, how have Insurtech and insurance platforms evolved during COVID, particularly with regards to schemes business? So Steve, can I put that one to you?
Sure. Good afternoon. I think for us, there's two factors really, time and opportunity. Saving time for us has been absolutely a priority. So what we've been able to do over the last 24 months essentially is invest in our platform. What we want to do is want to automate as much as we possibly can. So we are empowering our underwriters to actually underwrite. So we want to remove the administration side of our business and any timely, ineffective methods just to enable our underwriters to go out and do that, to win business and to react in a timely manner. I think one of our key ethoses within the business is that we want to make brokers' lives easy. And the technology that we're investing in is all about doing that. You know, we want to capture the broker's attention and capture their as much market share as we possibly can by making the automation and the transaction of insurance as easy as we possibly can. So we've been working on auto quoting as much business as we possibly can, and that's using the technology that we have available and building in our underwriting ethos and our guide into technology to allow that to do it as seamlessly as we possibly can. Self-serve documents. We use certain APIs where we drag data into the system to allow us to automate as much as we possibly can. So a lot of our resource internally is built about is time, and that's time for us and time for our broker, and making sure, you know, we save as much of it as we possibly can. And then opportunity for us and what technology does is priceless. We had a situation in the early days of COVID where we saw an opportunity for a lot of our business is leisure and hospitality, hugely hit by the COVID situation in March and April. So we had to adapt to what we offered. You know, we had to look at our insurance products and how they fit the customer. And it was quickly apparent we needed to change that. We needed to change it very quickly. So we were able to build, develop and distribute a light product that was fitting for the customer at that time, bearing in mind that we were in a lockdown situation. So the collaboration with SchemeServe allowed us to use the technology to build that product extremely quickly, work with our insurer partners to make sure they were on board with what we were trying to achieve, engage with our brokers to make sure that message was delivered, and then essentially deliver a product to the broker market which was more fitting for the circumstance the customers found themselves in, which was a lockdown situation where a full policy wasn't necessarily to their benefit, and reduced covers were you know, fitting for the circumstance, and that was cost, that was cover, but it was delivered quickly, and it was delivered using technology with as many partners as we could link in with, and that was a great move, one that allowed us to steal a market on the market, perhaps. You know, using that technology allowed us to really take advantage of the situation and offer a value to the customer. So,
Steve, it must have been something that was done in sort of a number of tranches, because I think as an MGA such as yourself, you had to respond to the opportunity. But I think from the broker perspective, that carried on, didn't it? Because business descriptions have been a real challenge for brokers in the market, where pre-pandemic, a business description probably would have encapsulated what the customer did. But because everyone diversified so much, did you feel as though you're doing it in stages going through to kind of support all the different changes within the pandemic as we progress through it?
Oh, for sure. You know, it was a hugely reactive market for us, and one that we had to adapt very quickly. We worked with insurers about extending unoccupied covers, you know, to ensure that businesses were protected through a lockdown situation, and that was technology driven and allowed us to, you know, enact those changes quickly. Businesses had to adapt. You know, every food risk went to a takeaway risk to be able to, you know, generate some income during that time. So we had to make sure that the covers were extended. We adapted our question sets. You know, we took the feedback from the brokers, and we adapted our acceptance criteria on particular products, because we were dealing with businesses that were so new and so reactive. It
sounds really liberating to have done that as an MGA, because as a broker, there was a lot of insurers who just couldn't react. They couldn't get their phones working, let alone kind of diversify and react to what was happening. Do you think it's because you're an MGA as opposed to kind of an insurer with staunch levels of managerial to get through, that you're just able to kind of react quickly? Because it is really inspiring to listen to the fact that you just made those changes in the moment, which is exactly what the market needed.
It's a mixture of having fantastic relationships with your capacity, and that's key. You know, fundamentally, if you've got capacity that trusts you, you're onto a winner. And then it's having the technology to be able to react quickly. You know, I think one of the biggest bugbears in the market is technology is old and rigid. It's not agile. But being able to control that technology in-house, work with a capacity partner to really find a benefit to the customer. And it's all about the customer at the end of the day. Our customers are brokers, but actually, the end customer is what we all strive to win. So putting something together with the partner, with technology, look, I'd like to think it's much easier with an MGA, and that's the value that we add, you know, and, you know, we continually strive for opportunity. You know, we ask brokers to bring us opportunity all the time. You know, where is it failing down? What are your headaches? And let's see if we can build something that's more fitting for you and the broker and your customer.
I mean, Steve, you say some words about business maintainability of a system as well, and I think that is absolutely key. So whilst obviously Hiscox, a large insurer, actually the fact that within schemes and delegated authorities, we've worked and partnered with Insurtechs and collaborations like with SchemeServe and other providers where we can have that business maintainability in-house. And I think that helps for both time, as you say, opportunity, and taking sort of the bull by its horns and really making changes quickly in-house rather than waiting potentially for a large provider or a large software house to make the change. So I think business maintainability is a really key word in there, because that allows you to make change quickly, doesn't it? And it allows our staff to.
Yeah, we've empowered our staff to underwrite. Like I said at the beginning, the biggest thing we wanted to do was to be available. You know, we wanted to have our renewals out the door 4 weeks in advance, maybe more. We wanted to have our new business quotes out either immediately or within half an hour. They'll kill me for saying that, but that's our goal. You know, we wanted to provide that service, and having the technology at your fingertips to be able to do that in scheme-driven areas is priceless.
Steve, it might be a good idea to share with the rest of the audience how quickly you were able to bring that to market, because you know you were working phenomenally quickly during that period, weren't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we had light products in the market in early April. So you know we took those decisions around the 20th of March when the lockdown came. But 65% of our business is leisure and hospitality. You know, so we sat there on the 20th of March thinking we could be in trouble. You know, we had to look after, you know, where was this going to go and what did it mean for our customers at the end of the day? So we had to adapt, and we had to adapt quickly. And, you know, a lot of this came from broker feedback, you know, because the brokers were the ones on the front line speaking to the customers and really feeling their pain. So we worked with a lot of key brokers and said, you know, what's the message and what do we do? So we were able to get light products out to the market in I'd say mid-April. We were trading and offering value there. But all throughout COVID, like Lee said, we adapted. You know, we adapted to businesses adapting, to the delivery aspect, to the unoccupied aspect, to the niche and wonderful non-standard ways that these businesses found to make a living. We adapted, and you know, our underwriting director was constantly engaging with the capacity providers to make sure that, you know, we could find a solution, and you know, more often than not we did. And you know, it was, you know, technology and capacity that allowed us to do that.
Thank you for that. Very comprehensive response. Appreciate that. I think you've probably touched upon quite considerably partnerships and collaborations. But Leah, do you have more that you'd like to add on how that all gelled together?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think not only throughout COVID, but far wider than just COVID, the pandemic and the social, economic, political, regulatory environment we are in right now means changes, as Steve mentioned, changes just continuing, and it's coming quicker and quicker. So we need to be able to adapt and work with systems that have the agility and flexibility to move quickly with change. So for us, working with partnerships and collaborating with Insurtechs that allowed us to do that, working with some existing providers and some new providers to ensure that we can respond to change as quickly as we need to in the market has been key. So I think we've had an existing provider for 10 plus years in the schemes market that provides quote and buys for us. And they allowed us to get out to our brokers and customers quickly. But actually we've seen since that relationship and throughout that relationship that we need to improve it even further. And we're working on some fantastic propositions there to reach our audience even quicker. So for our brokers who want to make change, when we make change, we all know that could knock something else over in a platform or knock something over quickly. So therefore, you need app support that provides that support within half an hour, rather than 3 days. So improving app support with our existing providers so we can respond to change is absolutely key. And we've really benefited from that in the last 3 years. But also working with new providers such as SchemeServe that allow us to have agility and flexibility in the way we present our schemes. So with over 100 schemes, of course, if you had 100 different digital solutions, you would just never make it to market. You would be taking so long to make change on every single scheme. So what SchemeServe allows you to do is rinse and repeat. So you have bespoke products, you have niche style products. You absolutely as we all do in the schemes and delegated authority world we work in, we have products that respond to our customers. They really hit that niche target sector. They are white labeled, most often anyway, white labeled, and they absolutely provide something specialist for the client. But equally, it's on a rinse and repeatable system where you can make changes at a quicker pace. So change, agility and flexibility is key for us. And I think the collaborations and partnerships we've built, including SchemeServe, have allowed us to make those changes.
I think, Leah, you're right. I think it's been going on. You know, we talk about the pandemic, and for me, the pandemic crystallised the journey that we were all on, because, you know, we've all been in the insurance industry long enough. You know, it goes through stages where we do everything online, then we go back to talking to the branch, then we go regional, then we go national, then we go back to local branch. And it's just kind of, that's the roller coaster, and hopefully the fun that we all find in the insurance world. I tell myself it's fun daily. But I think it is really interesting to listen to the collaboration, because where we were as a fairly new business as the pandemic hit, we'd obviously started to work closely with, you know, MGAs such as MBS and Steve's team, and actually yourselves. You know, we had a really sort of new relationship at the beginning of the pandemic. But what needed to happen was that we had to collaborate. We had to kind of almost draw down on you know, what we've done today and speed that up. For us, it wasn't so much the Insurtech side, although we benefited from what you and MBS and other MGAs and other insurers were doing. But for us, we needed to really solidify the relationships that at that point were quite embryonic. And we needed to kind of say, let's just hold hands and we're going to get through this. And I think that's what we did. So I think for us, the collaboration, the pandemic, whilst it brought so many different issues, it actually also brought some fantastic upsides as well, that our relationship, you know, with yourselves and with Steve and with others, actually is in such a better place. It probably wouldn't be at this place now had the pandemic not happened, because essentially we had to pick up the phone and we had to start talking and getting to know each other. And, you know, and when I look at the relationship with Hiscox and with our insurer partners and with NBS and everyone else, you know, we had such a small account with both of you guys at the beginning. We now look and we've gone through fantastic growth with both of you. And that's because you both, at the same time as we were saying, we need your help, we've got to just kind of jump in this together, you also did that back with us and other brokers. And that was really important. And I think for the broker, I don't know that Insurtech fed the way directly, but because of what you were all doing together, we benefited and our clients benefited. And I think that's been quite an exciting thing, that, you know, the pandemic has sped up those relationships. It's been like speed dating. You know, we're all now, you know, firmly entwined and can really kind of pick up and continue on that pace. And hopefully, you know, outwin anything else that happens, you know, face anything else that comes our way, because those relationships are now, you know, very, very mature and are working very well for brokers as well.
Yeah, that's a great point, Leah. I mean, we had a situation, obviously, at the start of the pandemic where, you know, we have most of our customers, obviously, are MGAs and the members of the MGA. And we had a few difficult moments at the beginning of the pandemic where capacity providers, traditional capacity providers, were pulling the rug and saying, you know, we're no longer, leisure was a case in point, as Steve was.
Yeah, absolutely.
Care was another issue as well, another area where insurers got, you know, little cold feet. And we proactively actually picked up the phone and spoke to every one of our customers over that period of time, saying, how are you doing? What can we do to help you? And I think that was probably a bit of a slightly change of stance from a software house, where often it's reactive. We were being more proactive and saying, well, you know, we're in a really difficult situation here. How you offer access? I mean, our platform's online, it's cloud-based anyway, so we didn't have an issue with VPNs and connections and working from home, because our customers always had that. But one thing that did come over was capacity issues. And from my previous life, obviously, I've had those conversations with carriers in the past and negotiating, you know, terms and things. And all of a sudden, we were having a couple of customers where they didn't have capacity. And, you know, it's a frightening situation. You know, an MGA without capacity is a bit of a problem, isn't it? So I picked up my little black book and spoke to a few people, and we were able to then launch our SchemeServe network, which brought schemes, dedicated schemes, capacity carriers and providers and insurers into one room, basically, and allow us to help our existing customers and new customers. Actually, during the pandemic, we had new customers come to us for capacity, and we had 7 or 8 ready, hungry mouths to fill, because we'd already done the hard work. We'd got through the barrier of relationship and say, here's 7 or 8 insurers. They've all got a different appetite. If you are looking for capacity, come via us as a funnel. And that was really, really successful in several. In fact, a few people on the call already have been benefited from that approach. So that collaboration.
I think it was really good to kind of, for you guys to be so proactive and to do that, because that was in small pockets through the pandemic, certainly from what we could see as brokers. But I think actually to go down that point of putting a network together that sort of brought everyone through, obviously as owner of a network, bringing everyone together and looking at how we could support what we do, be it from our own intranets and things like that. People just needed to come together and be able to share their concerns, work through and find solutions together. And I think that was really forward thinking. I think should be applauded. It was really important and crucial at the time.
I think as well, Leah, and it goes exactly back to that networking, that leading the way and building relationships together. But I think we were all on such a roller coaster together of our learning.
Yeah, absolutely.
That vulnerable trust, I think that is key in any relationship, and often it takes a relationship a long time to go through that. You have your wobbles, you storm, you norm, and then you form, and you're absolutely flying. But I think because we all went through it right from the beginning.
We did it in like 20 months, didn't we? All of us together at the same time. It was kind of do or die, and there's some really good things that come out of that now.
Absolutely. So I think that's really opened the doors to really collaborative conversations. We can be honest. We can say, you know what, that I've never thought of that. That's not how we work, but we'll learn from you. And yeah. I think insurers like Hiscox, we have such a heritage. We have such a knowledge of regulatory governance, etc. But when you then look at SchemeServe, MOVA, and you look at the groups with the more Insurtech and an innovative way of looking at things, you put that together, that's where collaboration really, really succeeds, because you've got both sides. You've got that experience and knowledge and history with that Insurtech and flexibility and that way of looking at things.
Yeah, I think that works. And I think as well, though, insurers like Hiscox, you're right, it's seen as a really traditional brand, but actually what it showed was that it could forward think, and it could be entrepreneurial. It could, grab the bull by the horns, as you said earlier, and just move forward. We didn't see that in volume across the industry at that time, but actually those that just got on with it and said, you know what, we're just going to run through and see what happens. I think to see an insurer like Hiscox do that was really refreshing. And to work with people like SchemeServe, you look at the other businesses that are on this call, SchemeServe, Movo and NBS, all fairly new businesses, all quite entrepreneurial, and all kind of, looking forward to do what they can to make it an easier world to be in. Hiscox, in my view, pre-pandemic would not have been at the top of that list because they were just such a staunch traditional outfit. But actually what they showed was, no, they can be as entrepreneurial as anybody else and can move forward and collaborate with us all. And it's just been really fantastic to be involved in that.
I think, oh, God.
Sorry, no, you go.
Thanks. So I was going to say, I find it really refreshing as well. And I look at the team that we're in from a schemes world, an operational world. So we have something called schemes analysts. And actually, if I look back to what they were doing 3 years ago, it was plugging in bordereau and Excels purely and looking at how to automate those bordereaux, which of course still exist today. But now some of what they're looking at is how do we build more digital and efficient platforms? And I think that fresh way of looking at something, that's really changed in the last 18 months, actually, and since the pandemic. Yeah. It's not just bordereau. That's not going to necessarily be the future for us. There is API, there is digital platforms. It's getting us onto there. So our operational arm of the schemes world at Hiscox is completely changing, and it's still evolving today.
Excellent. I think it's worth talking about some other insurtechs that have had value as well through collaboration. And I think technology is at the core of everything we all do, particularly at MBS, we strive on it and we're looking for the next opportunity. I think there's some wonderful insurtechs out there at the moment that are adding value to both MGAs, networks, insurers, the likes of Insurtech. They help signpost brokers to schemes, to opportunity, to insurers. They're a bridging gap. We use them an awful lot to find opportunity. And I don't think we can dismiss the value that some of these insurtechs are adding. Broker Insights, with their data management and their back office solutions that they have, they help us find opportunity. They help us offer solutions to brokers, and they put it on a plate for you. So that, and the technology that's out there really is adding huge value. So I think the more that we embrace it, the more opportunity that we create. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more insurtechs and seeing what value they can add. There's some really exciting ones up and coming. So I think the more that we embrace the insurance element of technology, the more opportunity that we all have.
I think you're right. Sorry, go on.
Sorry, I was going to just ask the question. I direct it to Sean. I think we're still talking really about various partnerships and collaborations. And I think in the interest of transparency, this is such a positive call and it is really great to hear. And I think any of our delegates who are looking to go down a route of either enhancing their current digital platform or even starting almost from scratch again, are really going to be, I would say, inspired by such positive stories. But Sean, again, going back to collaborations and partnerships, were there challenges that you experienced with your engagement with your clients and your partners that perhaps were common challenges that you managed to overcome? Were there some things that our delegates, again, whether they're on the start of a major digital transformation or they're just looking to upgrade, that they are likely or possibly going to encounter that you've been there, seen it, done it, worn the t-shirt?
Yeah, I suppose I come from a slightly poacher come gamekeeper sort of environment. I broke for 30 years, ran an MGA. I've used 6 of the previous other software houses that are available. So understand some of the difficulties probably a little bit more acutely than a lot of other software houses probably do. So using my previous experience, I've been able to engage with our customers. We've grown our client base 50% over COVID. We had a phenomenal success over 18 months. And I think a lot of that was really about more, and Steve came back to it, and Leah's mentioned it already, having that agility and speed to be able to change things. I think it's found lacking sometimes. And we've spoken to a few customers where they've not been able to update their product for 6 months, and then it took 6 months to change it. Now, the problem is with that, of course, is that your opportunity has disappeared already. And being an MGA previously, I fully appreciate, I've sat in everybody's chair that's probably sitting in this room today, and fully understand. And I think that bit of empathy from that previous experience has actually really paid us really quite dividends over the course of COVID. So yeah, we've had a few interesting conversations. One obviously about capacity. Some people losing capacity. A customer with lost capacity for us is a lost customer. They won't use our platform anymore. But we've had some really, really positive feedback, and we've also, we talked about evolving during the first question that Steve led on, and we're constantly evolving because we're learning from our customers. That proactive approach. We speak to our customers now every quarter. We pick up the phone, speak to the key people either on the coalface or on the management team or wherever those touch points may be, and we're asking them, what would you like? What do you need to help your job, help this journey, help your journey sort of progress and make it better and quicker and easier. And I think that's really where that proactive collaboration has really, really paid dividends in the last few months.
I think it's worth adding, Sean, not only are you talking to individuals, you're bringing us together with other MGAs and other partners of schemes. So saying, does this work? This MGA suggested this. Does it work for you? And sort of bringing in the key people together and saying, let's have some togetherness and see whether some of these opportunities, some of these ambitions mirror each other and see whether they add value and see whether we can escalate them as well. So the fact that you come to us and say, these guys have said this function would add value. What does it do for you guys? Does it add value to you? Is innovative, and the fact that we are in a position where we could have those discussions and take advantage of opportunity and use like-minded MGAs ideas to benefit our own is a wonderful position to be in, because, a lot of the old software houses are so rigid. Like you said, the one thing that you lose with them is time, and if you lose your time, you lose the opportunity. So it's wonderful to be part of a group of like-minded MGAs or brokers, whoever's got the scheme, who can add value to each other with the ideas and innovation that they have.
So how does that collaboration work in kind of real life, so to speak? How does it work? Is it a case of you simply arranging conversations whether in person or online, or do you have kind of round table sessions for feedback? What does it look like operationally to collaborate in that sense?
For us, it's just the key people of SchemeServe, their developers, talking to our key people. We've got the luxury in-house of having some fantastic development individuals who can manipulate the software to our advantage, and those conversations will happen, if not daily, 2 or 3 times a week, about what can benefit us and what they're working on. For others, that may also benefit us. So to be able to have the ear of a software provider who can react to a business that evolves extremely quickly, and our business has come a long way in the last 24 months, and a lot of that's down to technology. It's idea, it's a spark from someone in the business who has a need, and if you can react to that need quickly, we win. So yeah, it's just having the ear and having the ability to be in touch with the right people at the right time, as regular as we need. It just helps the flow of our business continue to grow as quickly as we are.
I think
Go ahead.
I think to add to Steve's point as well is it's generally, it's ironic we talk about digital efficiency, but actually a lot of this is just that human touch of chatting to each other, into each other. And Steve, for example, we know MBS, we have a great relationship, and then he says, oh, actually, have you spoken to SchemeServe? Have you spoken to Mobile, or this provider, that provider? And I think the relationships blossom with that trust of each other, getting to know each other. And even despite the pandemic, obviously our relationships, we're here on Zoom, they continue to thrive. The world's back open again, and things continue again at Biba next week. So I genuinely think that it's human, and it's that I trust that person. They've given me some fantastic feedback. Let me go and find out more about that collaboration, that Insurtech or that partnership I could have.
I think, Leah, you're absolutely spot on, because when I first sort of thought about collaboration in Insurtech, my instant gut reaction as a broker was to say, I don't think that through the pandemic, Insurtech benefited the broker on the ground that well. But it was a much more complex answer that I got to. And I think when I look at, Insurtech's become the buzzword, hasn't it? It's like Insurtech. It's just the word that's out there at the moment. So I think in my head, I tried to break that down. So within our network of what we've seen, go absolutely wild in the pandemic, simply because people were laid off. They were, furloughed, as was the word of the moment. And people were reflective, and they decided what they wanted to do. And many decided that actually they wanted to take control of their destiny at a time where there wasn't a lot of control to be had. And we saw a lot of people join us and start up their own businesses. So when I look at Insurtech, I think tech, full stop, is part of all of our worlds, and we absolutely have to embrace it. Self-confessed tech phobe, I have had to kind of embrace this and really understand what we're going to do. So we've done things like we've launched our intranet, we've created the Movo Insurer portal, which means our insurers can have a password and understand all about our brokers, what they do, what business they have, how they want to work, what schemes they may have, etc., etc. But actually, when you break that down, that's people. That's about people talking, people communicating. At the time when the pandemic occurred, from the broking perspective, the clients, they got on the phone. They were scared. And most, I say most, probably over half of the insurers that we worked with hadn't worked out. It makes me smile that we were asked every time we set up a new agency for our business continuity plan. But then when we had to put it into action, which we did within a day, the insurers themselves just couldn't go with the same speed. So you were trying to get through to people, and the only way you could do that was to ring the people that you knew. If you had a relationship with an underwriter, regardless of if it was their department or not, you would ring them because you needed to work on the relationships and build on those as we went through the unknown, which I think was really important. So I think tech has been something that as a business we have definitely integrated. I think Insurtech for a broker is something that we have to start to look at. And I think, looking at the work that certainly Steve and MBS have done, in making it that, brokers can go online, they can find the solution very quickly, supported by insurers. I think that's something that we're all looking at. I also think as well, taking Sean's point, it's the big five, isn't there? It's a bit like the supermarket, there's five you go to, and there's some you probably want to sneak into when it's dark. There's some that you just have to kind of work with because there doesn't feel like there's anywhere else to go. But actually what's coming out of that now with Insurtech for the things that SchemeServe and others are doing, and Steve mentioned Broker Insights as well, who've actually been really transformational in our business. It's been really exciting that the broker on the high street is thinking, actually, how can I get to my clients better using tech? And we're now starting to see this go forward. So as you know, the owner and the manager of a network, I need to support the brokers in future-proofing their businesses. The only way I do that is by working with the MGAs, who then work with the insurer partners, so that we can facilitate, as Steve says, the need in the market. And the need is growing, and it's growing, and we just need to be ahead of the game. And I think for the first time ever, we're kind of having a thought, saying, okay, let's give it a go, and we're making it happen. We're not kind of just, having the thought, thinking about it again in a few months, thinking we might do it. We're not in that world. We never will be again. We have to respond very, very quickly. And I think that is really exciting for us. I think overall, and I'll say it again, I think the gut feel I had as a broker being asked whether or not Insurtech has helped us in the pandemic. At the time of us doing what we were doing, no, I don't think it did. In the moment, the fact that we could ring up our underwriters, we could ring the team at MBS and other insurers and say, we need help, can you make this happen? And they did. That worked. But in the view of the broker on the ground, that was about that relationship that we could ring. That wasn't a direct point at that moment of being Insurtech led. But actually, having worked with you guys for as long as I have, I now know that Steve couldn't have delivered what he delivered in the way that he did without Sean, without Leah, without Hiscox, without all the insurers and the MGAs that have done what they've done. And not to mention the support that the MGAA were giving to those MGAs at the time to kind of help them work with the brokers and the clients better. And that's pure collaboration. That's kind of what we brought about. So very long-winded answer, but what I was trying to say is that, yes, Insurtech has helped the broker on the ground, but in the moment during the pandemic of having to deal with all of the stuff that were going on about, it was the people. And you cannot have one without the other. Without having those hard, fast, strong, resolute relationships. Doesn't matter how good the Insurtech is, if you haven't got someone like Sean picking up the phone to say, how can we help? What can we do? Let's put this together. It'll never work. And I'm just really grateful now that as I look at it, that the relationships in the market that we're all privy to and are very proud of actually have helped us get to the point that we have. And we've been able to make sure that our clients, the end user, has been protected all the way through. And for that, I think we should really celebrate what we've done in the insurance industry. Because, you mention insurance to people who aren't in the industry, and it's just not sexy, is it? We all fell into insurance and it just hasn't got that kind of sexy edge to it. We should be really proud, because actually what we're all doing collectively is making it innovative. We're future-proofing it, and we're making it really exciting. And I'm really proud to be part of that. It feels really important to be in insurance, working with independent brokers and collaborating with insurers and MGAs and software houses in the way that we are. So for that, I think Insurtech has made a really positive impact, but it wouldn't happen without the people involved.
Thank you for that, Lee. That's a really comprehensive answer. And, your passion is evident. And I think it's really nice. And I completely agree with you that, we should celebrate the fact that we're in a pretty good industry, a good market.
Absolutely.
We've talked a lot about agility, or if not necessarily used that word incessantly, certainly alluded to the need for agility and the speed in which changes are made. But we certainly have alluded to, but not used the word scalability. Now, this might be one for Steve, but I'm happy for anyone to take this question, or maybe it's even an observation. No, it is a question. How important is scalability to your businesses? And what does that mean in terms of perhaps your selection of a digital platform, a digital partner, Insurtech partner? Steve, did you want to try that one first?
Yeah. Look, I think it's fair to say that we've scaled up in the last 2 years, and how do I answer this? How have we done it? We've done it by having agile technology that's allowed us to adapt. We've allowed us the technology, we've integrated underwriting into the technology to create time, and I talk about time a lot, that time for our underwriters to underwrite, time for our underwriters to engage with brokers, to make their lives easier, to build relationship. I want them to be on the front line and making decisions and actually adding huge value and using their skill set. I don't want them to be bogged down in admin or medial tasks. We want them to be adding the value that we brought them into and train them to do. We use We collaborate with other sources, APIs, data lookups. All, you know, we could talk about data forever, the value that it adds our business, but it allows us to create scale, to build technologies to allow us to accept more business, to widen our product range, to widen our appetite, to be more aggressive on rate. We've all been through the hard market. It's been a turmoil time for us. You know, we've had to adapt. We've had to push as much rate as we can. We've got to educate the brokers why the renewals are going up. But by using technology, by using as much data as we can get our hands on, you know, we use data to provide factual information to our insurers before they know it. You know, we want to tell them how we're performing before they look at it through their data scientists and tell us. Wrapping that into the technology that we use, empowering our underwriters and our key staff to be able to actually make decisions and write business. Scalability has just flowed from there. You know, and if you put those things in line, you've got the right people and the technology in place and the right insurance partners, scaling up is easy. You know, and look, I've been recruiting for the last 2 years non-stop, and that's a wonderful problem to have. But because the business flow is coming in, but it's really important that we keep on top of that flow. It's really important that we keep the service levels as high as we possibly can. I think I'm not in tune with too many insurers, but I hear quite a lot of negative things around service and delivery and you know, prompt renewals and open for business, whether they are or not. You know, if we can keep ahead of that game and be prompt in our renewals and open for business very, very quickly, and constantly looking for new opportunity and finding ways to win and finding ways to write business for the brokers, scale happens organically, and it's wonderful to have the technology in place to allow that to happen.
Your underwriters must feel that empowerment, Steve, because ultimately, essentially the tech has taken away a lot of the automation for your own staff as well, but it has enabled your underwriters to have conversations. And I think that's what's been really refreshing about what your business has done. You know, our guys know they can ring up and have a conversation, and your underwriters will have a conversation back with them. It isn't a computer says no attitude, and surely that's probably coming, I'm guessing, from the time they're saving in processing. They can actually just get on the phone, talk and trade, which is kind of how it should be.
Yeah, look, all my underwriters are the business developers as well. You know, they want to create relationships. I want MBS to be an MGA of choice. I want us to you know, let those brokers know that we'll do everything we can. You know, we have so many different communication channels. We're on the phone, the old-fashioned phone, and I challenge my underwriters to ring out as much as the brokers ring in. We do online chat, you know, instant chat. You know, you're going to get an instant response to any question you've got. And you can do that via our online chat facility. We have a communication tool in the system where we can talk to our brokers and we can talk internally. We have as many touch points as we can possibly open to our brokers to allow us to be open and write business. You know, and if you give brokers all the tools they need to write business, they'll write business with you. It's such a simple process. It really is. Yeah.
It is, isn't it? And almost what we're trying to do is simplify it, not make it more confusing. And you're right, you know, a broker wants to broke and an underwriter wants to trade.
And empower the underwriters to make decisions and write business. And that's exactly what a broker wants. You know, somebody who's going to make a decision in real time. If you can do that, you jump into the top of their list.
Leah, you wanted to jump in now?
I was going to say, we find is exactly, so Steve's team, obviously that underwriting piece, I mean, and at Hiscox, it's portfolio underwriting. So get the random one odd referral away from them, because if it's always going to be yes, why is it referring? Just get it automated, get it in that system, and get our guys actually looking at the portfolio underwriting. So what do we want to write overall? Looking at the data, we're getting a sea of data coming in. Look at the data. What do you want to write? How are we going to grow this book? How are we going to target the marketing and that audience? It's a specialist sector rather than those individual cases. So underwriting and that efficiency, and we talk about scalability, and going back to your question, underwriting is and portfolio underwriting rather than case by case underwriting is the key.
Yeah.
One of the great things also, I think, Leah, on that point, and Steve mentioned, we talk about APIs and integration. One of the referral points, obviously, we all have, you know, a certain amount of DA that we're given by the carrier. One of the real speedy bits that we've been able to introduce recently, and I think Steve and other customers have benefited from, is where the risk is outside of DA, we can automate that referral process directly to the carrier. You've not got to wait till it refers. the carrier's actually got the risk straight away in real time. So the underwriter can respond within minutes rather than hours. And sometimes that can be the key to winning or not winning the piece of business. And also with the API integrations and the data enrichment services that are around that Steve and other customers are enjoying at the moment, it just makes you build that better quality risk, rather than carrying a bundle of paper around London these days like we used to. It's all there for you. It is all there. Well, we still do. But it's becoming less common. But where you've got a situation that you can automatically, at a point of sale, pinpoint where the nearest fire station is, the care quality commission, the food standards hygiene rate, all of that, all of a sudden as part of the quote journey, giving that data to your underwriter is priceless, absolutely priceless, and just makes you just got a little bit of an edge, haven't you?
It's twofold, isn't it, Sean? It makes the broker's life easy because they don't have to drag that data. We can also pre-populate from certain bits of information within the system. So from the postcode and the name of the business or the shop name or whatever, you can pre-populate certain bits of data through API. But like I say, it gives our underwriters factual information to underwrite. And it lets the machine react accordingly. We try and automate as much as we possibly can. And if we've got factual information in there, drawn in through API, the machine does its thing. And it's one less thing for us to worry about. So there's more chance of that being an instant quote to the broker rather than going into the underwriting flow, which is absolutely our passion. We want to increase the number of quotes that we automate direct to brokers so they get a quote in seconds rather than having to wait for an underwriting flow. If it comes into underwriting flow, we'll do it the best we can and we'll do it quickly. But, trust me, the absolute passion is to get as much business auto quoted as possible because everybody wins.
Absolutely. But we're seeing, sorry.
That's okay. I was going to say this might be a question for you anyway, Leah, but with regards to the automated quoting, and I'm going back a good number of years to when I was broking, do you think there's still an education piece to brokers surrounding the fact that if the quote is automated, it doesn't mean the broker is not getting the best quote? Because I think there is always that element with a broker, and the broker's job is to negotiate on behalf of the client. If they're not getting that opportunity, is there or could there be the feeling that, well, this is a computer number, this is not what I could get out of the underwriter if I spoke to them directly?
Yeah, we're a cynical bunch, aren't we, us brokers? I think that's clear to say. But yeah, I think that's less of an issue as it was 5 years ago. I really do. I think there's a lot more trust now in the systems that they're using. You'll always have those depending on kind of the type of risk it is, or who's quoting as to whether or not they're going to go to the underwriter just to see if they can do it. But I think systems now have become the quoting engine, and there's still many. There's all the iMarket, the eTrade, all the insurers' own sites. I think you will see a broker go and do as many as they can. I don't know, and again, probably a question more for Steve as to how many refer on price, because that's what it will come down to a lot of the time if it is that they don't trust the system. But I think there's a lot more faith in the systems now, which I think is really good to see. I think where we are seeing a tech difference from the broking perspective is that when they have got the quotation and they have, we have quite strict rules that you have to do the credit checks, companies' house checks. It's really interesting that they can go and then press a button depending on whose system they're in, and they can do a D&O quote at the same time as they've done the commercial combined and the limited. They should be doing a cyber quote as is. And what you're seeing now as it goes forward is that systems such as scheme server building for MBS others, that is something that you can just quote at the same time now, which helps the broker. Whilst I think there's a lot more faith in the systems, and I think brokers have got a little bit more tech savvy, I think the cross-sell and the upsell, and the horrible terms, and I hate them, but that they are what are there. There is a duty of care from a gap analysis point of view, from compliance, to make sure that as, the critical friend, we're giving the right advice to the client. And I think tech has to support that, because, if you are a broker that's going to go and quote multiple different quotes, you need to be able to then go and do all the bits that need to be done as the gap analysis. If you've got a limited business, you should be offering to, you should be making sure that that's presented through. Cyber, obviously, is another exposure that you should be, consulting your customer about and making sure that happens. And I think that's where a lot of the tech systems are starting to really come in now. Not just do that for the broker, but enable them to work on their business, not in their business. We talk about broker insights and other MI and data. The MI is so crucial at the moment from the broker's perspective. And I think before, traditionally 5-10 years ago, a broker would have just gone to the end to see what their income was. I know that's what I used to do. And there's no shame in that. Actually, what you should be doing now, and with the support of Broker Insights and others, is going, okay, so I've got 75 limited companies. How many D&O policies have I sold? Have I done that gap analysis? Because if not, there's a compliance breach. And I think the support and the work that the MGAs are doing with the systems they've got, you can now tick a box to get all those quotations. So it's helping the broker cross-sell. It's helping the MGA and the insurer sell more products, because that's what they're there to do. But ultimately, it just helps the customer at the end know that they're fully covered and that everything's been put together. So I'd like to see more development in that go through for the MGAs as well. But no, I think there's trust in the systems, but I think the systems could probably do more from a broking perspective, and that will continue to develop as time marches forward.
Thanks, Lee. Leah, did you want to add something to that?
I think I would add to Lee's point. I think that trust in the system, for what we deal business with in schemes and delegated authority world, most of our business is sub 10K. So you're talking about stuff that absolutely has to be efficient. And I think that human touch might be needed on those bigger cases, absolutely. But anything sub 10K, should it be being touched? Does it need to be touched? And we're getting more and more calls from our brokers to have either a portal, a back office system solution, all of the different things that we've talked about today, whether it's via API. So I absolutely feel that now it's sort of reversed from where it was 5 years ago. We're in a position where we're being asked, where's your digital? Where's your digital? It should be.
Absolutely.
So we've got to match it, and that's absolutely what we're doing, and why we're partnering with new providers. So yeah, I think for me the world has changed, and I also think one of the requests we have is embedded insurance. So actually we've seen a couple of new startup brokerages that are talking about embedded insurance, which is quite an exciting solution. It's an interesting one, and I think there's plenty of healthy debate around what should embedded insurance look like. But embedded insurance is almost the next thing. So it's not just digital quotes, but where do we embed? Where do we build in things like what Amazon are doing, and how do we learn from them? But make sure we do it in the right way, the compliant way.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Leah. We've mentioned compliance. We are getting nearer to the end of our session now. However, just wanted to, and because it's such an important matter to our members, not just now, it always has been, but I think it's never been more prevalent. But Sean, can you give us your views on compliance, and in terms of SchemeServe particularly, what value SchemeServe can add in terms of the compliance piece?
I'm going to change my hat to a compliance one from a purple one then.
Yes, yes, please.
Okay. Again, I have the fortune of being previously FCA registered, so the FCA handbook is cleared in previously bedtime reading for me. Yeah. Of course, compliance is key, and one of the biggest things, I think you touched on it just a second ago, Leah, is the MI. You know, it's okay getting all this data into a platform, but if you can't get it out and satisfy one, the regulator, and two, the insurer, yeah, it's kind of a bit of a problem, isn't it? You know, so you're then trying to sort of manipulate the same data separately, which is just complete waste of time. So we try and enable that anything is within our platform, you can get out of our platform. You know, whoever you want to report it to, whether it's the insurer, whether it's the regulator, or whoever it may be, if it's in there, you can manipulate the data. And I think that is real key, Julia, having that data available at the touch of a button at any time you wish. So from a compliance point of view, we're obviously satisfying all of our customers' needs regarding FCA reporting, also going into looking at further strategic MI into risk. One really great thing with SchemeServe Network actually was where our existing customers were struggling for capacity, we had all the data at the touch of a button for them. So you're talking about working out a COR, for example, for a carrier. Well, here's your premium, here's your claims, this is the risk portfolio, here you go, can we have some capacity, please? And that was cutting out weeks and weeks of time of negotiation and talking to people.
Yeah.
So I think whatever platform you use, the data's only as good as what you can get out of it at the end of the day, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, quite right. And just quickly to you, Leah, very briefly, how much more important is the maybe the access to data for carriers currently in terms of risk selection, in terms of performance, the fact that there is so much more data that is and should be available, I guess makes carriers far more greedy for it, if I might use that word.
I think we're just as greedy, Julia, interestingly. So we can make our underwriting and intelligent underwriting decisions based on that data. I think the key is getting all of the systems via API or whatever it may be talking to each other so that your data's in one place. And I think that for us and for our brokers is the essential part, that we can put our data in one place so you can look at it together collaboratively, which is what we ensure we always do. So we have our quarterly reviews and our monthly reviews with our brokers to go through that data and talk to them, but actually having it in one place so that you can analyse it is the key. Because otherwise you've got data sort of everywhere, and I referred to earlier a data lake, but I think it really is. It's a sea of data that you've got to pull together via intelligent systems and solutions that will allow you to actually properly look at the data. So we are as greedy as our brokers, I would say, Julie. The honest answer. We want.
And there's nothing wrong with that. We're coming to the end of our session, as I say. We're on 56. I would just give our delegates just a moment or two to submit a question if you have any for our panellists today. If before the end of this session we don't get a chance to answer, as I said at the top of the meeting, questions will be answered post-event. This webinar will be uploaded to our website and our MGAA YouTube channel. So we don't have any questions just at the moment. So what I'd like to say is thank you so much to Steve, to Leah, to Lee and Sean of SchemeServe, of course, for the webinar today. I think it's been a really interesting discussion. Lots of interesting points, lots of real key takeaways of the benefits of using or improving digital platforms, but certainly I would imagine of encouraging contact to be made to Sean. But if there's no further questions, if you would allow me, if I can manipulate my screen to let me, I don't know whether I can do this, just let me finish on learning objectives. So our delegates should now be able to describe ways in which MGAs have grown during the pandemic, outline various collaborative and communication tools and strategies for growth, particularly relating to schemes business, describe ways in which insurance platforms have evolved during the pandemic, and summarise ways in which MGAs can harness these new collaborative tools and strategies to support their own growth. So again, it just leaves me to say thank you very much again to our panellists. Thank you to our delegates for joining us, and please do take note of the link that you'll be sent for feedback. We would appreciate your comments and views on this webinar going forward. So thank you very much, and I hope you'll have a great afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.